her posing because she's just a ham. So, yeah, I figured that would be a little distracting.
So if Cortland doesn't make it, then
we had the same thing. Remember Blake Shull came in just right.
Yeah, he was like 2 minutes late.
Right at the top of the hour or something.
Okay.
So, I texted Cortland. So
yeah, I don't think it'll hurt the flow. I'll just be sad because he's awesome.
Yeah. He put out a really good tweet about a half hour ago that I commented on about, you know, young people start a lot of the new organizations, and then do you ever think about why they don't just join ones that already exist? Like,
That's a great question for Cortland.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to sign off and start broadcasting.
Okay. Oh, he's logging on.
Okay.
He'll be logging on from his phone. He's almost at a stable location.
So we're live now recording. Welcome to those joining us now for welcome to social media launching the future of aviation. We're going to give people another minute or two to join us, and we'll get started at the top of the hour. Greg, you have practiced Ashley's last name, correct?
I have.
There will be a quiz.
They actually have it phonetically written out. So, and my Italian last name card will be pulled if I get it wrong.
I'm just trying to figure out if there's any irony in the fact that you have assigned me Carney, which is like carnage, and Savage, which is like savage.
Well, maybe there was unintentional.
We'll give it another 30 seconds before we get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Social Media Launching the Future of Aviation. I am Amy Spowert, President and CEO of the National Aviation Hall of Fame.
And I'm Greg Principato, President and CEO of the National Aeronautic Association. This is the 9th in a series of webinars brought to you by a collaboration between the National Aviation Hall of Fame and the National Aeronautic Association. To learn more about our organizations, please visit our websites.
Members of the Hall of Fame and the NAA received advance notice of today's webinar and were able to sign up early for this limited opportunity. This will be the same for future webinars, so please consider becoming a member. As we go through the webinar, please feel free to send your questions and we will do our best to work them into the conversation.
Aviation is an industry that, despite its reliance on innovation and invention, that can be sometimes hidebound in its thinking and outlook. Social media basically exists as a counter to all that. Yet each has used the other to get messages and news out, to make important points and keep various stakeholders informed. This journey has not always been easy, and we have a great panel to help us explore how this journey has unfolded and how it will shape the future.
Emily Carney is Space Hipster #1. Emily is a United States Naval veteran and a freelance writer. She has been named one of the top 10 space influencers by the National Space Society and a top social media evangelist. Space Hipsters has attracted an international audience that includes astronauts and scientists and lots of really cool people. They also organize an annual book prize and field trips with programs for youngsters. A Space Hipsters logo was even spotted on the International Space Station.
Oh, very cool. Ashley Yacarino is Communications Manager for Tampa International Airport and manages their social media efforts. Airports must interact with a varied audience of customers and stakeholders, and Ashley is responsible for keeping all engaged and informed, a responsibility that has been sorely tested in the COVID era. From air service to security to efforts that the airport is making to stay prepared for the post-COVID era, Ashley is using social media to get all those messages out.
Cortland Savage, whose video may be off, is founder and
There he
is founder and CEO of Fly for the Culture, a 501c3 that introduces youth to the aviation industry. Cortland has served as a U.S. Air Force Reserve Crew Chief, a naval aviator, and a regional airline pilot. Now, Cortland utilizes social media to reach a widely diverse audience of young people and introduces them to aviation. He provides opportunities to learn and observe aviation up close and works with them to provide life lessons, and we are thrilled that he is here.
And Bernay Wilson is senior editor at Points Guide, but for many of us, she is simply the aviation queen. Bernay has worked as a journalist for more traditional trade publication, Aviation Daily, and earlier worked for Delta Airlines, Mesa Air, and Rolls-Royce, among others. Bernay was early to the social media scene among aviation writers and never tired of telling many of us stick in the muds that social media was the way stories would be told in the future, and we needed to get involved. He's also a freelance writer and blogger whose observations about aviation are much sought after. And we are very delighted to have all four of you here with us. And Bernay, to get us started, I'd like you to share a story that you shared with Amy and me when we spoke on the phone last week about when you knew that social media would be shaping perceptions about aviation, whether we wanted it to or not. Bernay, can you tell that story?
Of course. And Greg and Amy, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm delighted to be here. I was an early adopter of social media. I got on Twitter in 2008. And, I just thought I would play around with it and see how it worked. And very quickly, a community of aviation people, the Av Geeks, started congregating on there. So we were having our chats and learning about each other, and I was getting really good story ideas. But back at that time, there were a lot of people who still felt like Twitter was that place where you just told everybody what you ate for breakfast, and they didn't take it seriously. Didn't take it seriously until January 15th, 2009. And I remember the date because it's my mother's birthday, but it's also the day of the Miracle on the Hudson. At the time, I was working at Aviation Daily, and I had left to go home. I worked in DC and lived in Baltimore. And I was on the commuter train going home, and I'm looking at my BlackBerry, look that up, kids, and it started vibrating, and I'm looking at Twitter, and I'm seeing somebody said, oh, a plane just landed in the Hudson River. And I'm like, oh, yeah, right, that happened. But then it kept going, and it was the Av Geeks, and then the picture started coming in. So I called my newsroom and said, hey, a US Airways Airbus A320 has just landed in the Hudson River after birds went into the engine. And in our newsroom, we had television screens all over showing all the major networks. And they were looked at the screens. They're like, no, it didn't happen because it's not on CNN. It's not on any of the channels. I said, look, I'm telling you, this is going on right now. And they're like, what's your source? And I'm like, I'm on Twitter. And, the looks that I got, the eye rolls and everything. So I decided to just go ahead and write a blog post about it. So I wrote about it, and then it took, and I checked it, it took 20 minutes for CNN to get that story on the air. So, we were ahead, but it was on the blog. But after that, my newsroom took notice and said, oh, well, maybe this Twitter is a good thing. So that's my little evangelical story about the power of social media in aviation.
That's so cool. That is an amazing 20 minutes. Absolutely astounding. Yes. And now that it just seems like commonplace. You saw it early. Hey, before I ask Emily, we're going to shoot out a question to her, but I would like to go ahead and put up the first poll question to everyone and ask, what social media do you use? I'm fascinated, and I can't wait to see what everyone puts. So everyone, go ahead and vote. While we're doing that, while everyone's having a go at that, I'm going to throw out to Emily, who, as we heard, Bernay was an early user of Twitter, but Emily, you were actually an early user of another social media. How did you come to choose Facebook for Space Hipsters? And can you tell us a little bit about how that evolved from those early days?
Yeah, well, Space Hipsters, uh, well, I should say before the group started, I started the group in February 2011. Before that, a few things were happening in space flight. I became aware that on Twitter and Facebook there were space tweeps, basically space enthusiasts who use the internet. It's kind of a nice shorthand. And NASA had events called NASA Tweet Ups at the time. Now they're called NASA Socials. And they were actually in person. This is way before the pandemic. And people would, NASA would select, a certain amount of people to go to, like, say, a launch or an event or something like that. So, so I became aware that, wow, I'm a long time space geek. I became aware that, wow, space flight, there is a community of around space flight on social media, you know. So anyway, February 2011, I was sitting at home and I was like, I was on Facebook, and the reason why I chose Facebook was because they have Facebook groups on there where you can press a button, start a group, and so many people can join it. And basically, what happened was I was chilling with my husband one night, and I was like, "Man, I want to start a space flight Facebook group on Facebook. What should I call it?" And he's like, "Just call it Space Hipsters, because you think you invented everything." And he was messing with me. He was joking. So I was like, "Fine." So I named it Space Hipsters, and the name stuck. Now we can't get rid of it. It is a trademark now. But so anyway, how it evolved was at the beginning of the group, we had 4 people in it, including my husband, who came up with the name. We had 4 people in it. And honestly, at the time, I did not see it becoming bigger than 100 people, because I was like, there's probably not a lot of hardcore space nerds out there. So I don't see this blowing up or becoming really big, you know? So I would just share content, and not just me, but other people would share content about, space related stuff. A lot of it was about the shuttle program, which was coming to an end at the time. And we just started gaining followers like out of nowhere. It was kind of like, wow, I did not expect this. And within a year, I think we had 100 people, which at the time was like, wow, 100 people, that's amazing. So let's fast forward. It's almost I think it's over 10 years later now, and now we have 21,200 people in the group, which is nuts. The way it evolved, I think, and I want to give a lot of credit to the other moderators, especially Lois Honeycutt. I think she's watching right now. Hi, Lois. I need to give them a ton of credit. I'm just the person who pushed the button to create the group. Within the last decade, our moderators, especially Lois, they've really enriched the group with a lot of suggestions on how to make it more fun, how to make it more positive. A big thing, and I'll close with this for this question. I could go on forever, but a big thing we've done field trips to different space facilities. We've also done sort of charities. We've done outreach to different charities. A main one is Girls Taking Up Space, which is run by Zarina Salindo, and that sends Native American girls to space camp. And another thing we have is the Space Hipsters Book Prize, and we are currently in the final judging round for it for this year's prize. But it basically celebrates greatness in spaceflight literature throughout the year. So we've had a lot of these activities that have really enriched the group and just have given it a lot of texture, I think. So I think that sums it up. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Awesome. So my next question is going to go to Cortland, but yeah, Amy, I was going to ask you to go ahead and throw that up. So Facebook, YouTube, interesting. A lot of people here on LinkedIn. Huh. I'm surprised only half on Twitter. Anyway, thanks, Amy. Cortland, as you were conceiving Fly for the Culture, did you begin with your mission? And did you begin with your mission of what you wanted to achieve and saw that social media was a tool? Or did you begin with the thought of using social media and then build your program around that? How did you evolve?
Basically, I never even thought about creating a nonprofit organization, nor did I even know anything much about a nonprofit organization. So I actually just wanted to utilize social media to meet young people where they are, because they're always on their phones, and so am I. So I'm like, well, if I create a social media page, because there's not many out there that showcase minorities and women flying airplanes, then, you know, I could use that to catch their attention and show that there are minorities and women flying airplanes. Because unfortunately, a lot of the organizations that are currently out here, they don't really showcase minorities that much at all, really. But so I wanted to change that and created Fly for the Culture, which was just really a social media page. Well, actually, Fly for the Culture is really a shirt that I created under my company, like a t-shirt. And I picked that and I was like, hey, that sounds cool. Let's make it into a nonprofit. And I Googled everything, figured out how to make a nonprofit organization, got incorporated, tax exempt, and then just kind of start building the mission from there, and just utilizing social media. Instagram is where I got real big on, and it got me a lot of media attention. That's when ABC connected with us, and I went and did a show with ABC, and the rest is history. Any media that you ever seen me on or involved with, I never like asked for it. I like literally it has all came through me marketing Fly for the Culture through social media. So yeah, so I kind of built a mission after I realized it was going to be successful on Instagram, and just kind of grew it from there.
Wow. Huh. So do you sleep?
No, I absolutely, I don't have any free time. I don't have any. This literally, and it sounds like I'm being sarcastic, but for the past I created this in 2018, March of 2018, and ever since, I probably spend either way 3 to 4 hours a day on Fly for the Culture, even when I try not to the point my own children has got on me, you know, because they say, Dad, when you're here, you're not even there. So, you know, it's a lot of work, but I see a change, and I see like a lot of change has been made since I created this. So that's what keeps me going. It gets stressful and exhausting at times, but it's worth it.
It's working too. It's working.
Yes, ma'am.
Amy, would you throw up the next poll question? When seeking credible breaking news alerts, which social media is your go-to? So we'll give everyone a moment to look that over. And Amy, I'm going to shoot the next question to Ashley, but whenever you have the, give that another 30 seconds and go ahead and throw the results up while Ashley's answering. But Ashley, in our last webinar, Greg and I learned that airports and airlines are often misrepresented in the media. How do you ensure that the news about Tampa is accurate, and how do you use social media to get your good news out?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Amy. We've always been very, very transparent with not only all of our followers, our audience, our passengers, but also with our media partners. So at Tampa, most of our communications team actually comes from different newsrooms, or they were reporters once. So we're fortunate enough to have a really good relationship with our media partners. But even those who we don't have a relationship with, we'll tweet something out, and we've used social media as a venue to share our information. And they'll even pick up a tweet and post that as if that's the news, instead of using a press release or writing their own story on it or seeking more information. They'll just pull the tweet because they know that we're not going to be sharing information that is not valid on our own channels. So social media has really introduced the ability for us as a brand to not only share our information and make sure that everybody has the correct information, but also to really create a brand reputation and share our story in a better way that we previously were not able to do.
Were you surprised? I know it came up right in the middle of your face as you were answering there, the poll results. It looks like most people consider Twitter as their go-to. Is that surprising to you?
No, not at all. That would probably be mine too. And some people will probably be like, don't go to social media for your news. But I mean, as Bernay was saying, if something happens right away, or something happens in Tampa where I am, I'm going to Twitter and searching for that keyword before I'm going to the news, because I know that there's going to be that information. There's somebody that was there, and that person is probably connected on social media. So not surprising at all.
Because Bernay is already writing about it and CNN hasn't even heard. Bernay, Greg, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, and Twitter is really the one I would use too. I was interested that none of the above came in second. I thought that was interesting, which reflects our politics, maybe. I recall someone saying to me once, you may or may not like to use social media, but your customers do. Others are using it to form opinions and impressions of you, so you better get with it. And I'm guessing it was probably Bernay, right? Who said that to me. So Bernay, can you point to instances where an aviation entity, be an airport, airline, manufacturer, whoever, did a great job of using social media to turn a negative into a positive, a negative story into a positive?
Oh gosh, there are just so many now. If you had asked me this question 10 years ago, it would have been different. But I think that the airlines have come a very long way in using social media to reach out to people during troubled times. Now, I will say sometimes it's a little overwhelming. So I don't know if you all remember, but over Easter, Delta had a lot of cancellations, and they had to abandon their open middle seat policy,
Mhm.
and they didn't really have enough time to tell everyone. And so that got a little messy. I mean, that was an example, but I think overall Delta has been a leader in social media going way back. I mean, I remember when I went down, that when they had just created their social media spaceship room, and they had a whole team on there with direct lines to all of the major departments. So I think overall that the airlines have done a really good job. I think the airports have too. There are still some airports out there that don't have verified Twitter accounts, and I'm going to shout that out. You really need to get that done, because when I started, there was somebody who had the Twitter handle JFK, and they were putting out really great information. And I called the guys over at the Port Authority, and I said, your Twitter account is really good. I'm so impressed. They're like, what's Twitter? And I was like, well, somebody has JFK and somebody is tweeting out really good information, but you might want to check that, because people can do good, but they can also do harm.
I remember that. Emily, space is one of those areas where everybody's got an opinion, right? I mean, everybody is interested on some level, when something cool happens, but few really know very much. How have you used social media to generate interest in, especially enhanced knowledge of space issues?
That's a really great question. Space flight, I think space flight, a lot of people, some people look at space flight and think, oh man, rockets, all it's science and stuff, oh my God, this is so hard. I can't relate to it, and I think it does, I wouldn't say turn some people up, but I think some people are intimidated. They don't want to ask questions because they're like, I'm out of my element. And I believe social media is an awesome tool to actually help spread knowledge and disseminate knowledge. Granted, you have to be careful about where you get knowledge from, and what news sources you go to. But I'm a big advocate of discovery learning. And what that is basically like when you see, let's say you stumble upon a link about, I'm going to just throw something very basic out, like the Apollo program. Like, yeah, you want to discover more about, what the Apollo program was, why, people landing on the moon, what started it. And then you click on and you learn a little bit more about, okay, what's the lunar module? What's that, and you kind of just down the line, you develop more advanced knowledge about the program. And I think Facebook, not just Facebook, any social media is a spectacular way to disseminate that kind of knowledge to thousands of people, and
Right.
it's really a great teaching tool. So that's how, I think social media can enhance, knowledge and learning. And there are moments when, I'm, I'd like to consider myself a space flight expert. I write about space, and I that's something, I kind of, my mind lives in all the time. But I don't know everything. There's stuff that I'm just like, I have no idea about this, even sometimes I'm like, I'd feel stupid asking about this. I'm gonna look dumb. But it's like you have to ask the question and somebody out there will know it. And that's another thing that I think is great about Facebook and Space Hipsters. I'm gonna plug my own group in general, is that on Space Hipsters, if I ask a question like, man, I really don't know this, can somebody give me, a hint or something out there? Someone out there is an expert in it and they'll know it. And
Right.
or they can say, well, here's this book you can read and that'll teach you. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know. So I
But
think it's wonderful. What's
with
up?
Yeah.
all due respect, Emily, Space Hipsters gives me kind of a heart attack anytime I have any enshrinee with like, or like we just had the anniversary of STS1 with John Young and Bob Crippen, both Hall of Fame enshrinees. I have a mini heart attack every time I hit post to any social media because I know the Space Hipsters are going to fact check me. And if I have anything about any of the missions wrong, they're going to be like, "Hey, Amy," and I'm like, "No, I'm sorry, Space Hipsters."
It shouldn't be that way, honestly.
Not in a bad way, but you
I
guys
think
know your stuff.
we
Yeah.
do, but at the same time, I mean, there's stuff that there's stuff that I don't know. And I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I know everything about space flight. There's stuff I have no idea about. And I think, you know, I look at social media as a great tool for like helping somebody if you don't know something, you know, and there's no shame in that. There's, like I said, there's tons of stuff that I don't know. And I don't think every space expert knows every facet about every program. So that's why I think the internet and social media in general is such a wonderful discovery learning tool. You know, it can just
Yeah, the
lead
great thing about it is that there's no
place.
there's no borders. You know,
Yep.
you can go out and get information and all that from a wide variety of places. Cortland, I want to ask a tough question, I guess. You're using social media to help attract untraditional populations to aviation, and you know, we've seen some, let's say, call them unfortunate reactions to some of what you post. How do you overcome those challenges with grace and resiliency and turn them to your advantage? What keeps you going?
What I do is I look at some of the greats that came before me. So basically what I'm trying to do is change the entire culture of aviation. So that's not supposed to be easy. And of course, a lot of people aren't going to like that. Because if you look at like people like Martin Luther King and you know, people like that, they were all hated in the beginning and then loved in the end. But you know, it's just the way I deal with it is just I know I always ask myself, is the things that I'm saying correct? Are they truthful? Most of the things I say aren't actually coming from me. They're actually coming from the younger generation who you would never heard this because they're so afraid of saying these things to the older generation because there's a lot of retaliation when you speak up about different things in this country, and people will, you know, do things to hurt you because you spoke up, even if it's the truth. So basically, the way I deal with it is just like I know that it's making a change with the younger generation, and they're excited about it. And my main focus is the younger generation, and so that being my focus, I don't really. And usually the people who are always saying something negative or getting on me is usually the older generation. Like I have the most problems with the older generation, but the younger generation loves it. So I asked, what's my mission? My mission is to get more young people in aviation. It's working, so I'm doing what I do. And then one thing I notice about media and social media and anything, it doesn't matter what happens in the media, people forget about it in like a day or a week. So it doesn't even matter. So that's how I pretty much handle it. Just keep moving. I stay motivated by the young people. And those are my target. I love the young generation. We just having fun. And now on top of that, I'm having fun.
Cortland, as a follow-up to that, then to your answer, you just said that the cool thing about the negative press is that people forget about it in a day. How do you make it so your social media remains relevant and exciting to your target audience, to the kids who, thank God you're doing what you're doing, because we need more Cortland Savages in aviation and aerospace. So how do you ensure they keep your message longer than a day?
So all I need them to do is hit the follow button, and that's the power of social media. Because once you hit the follow button, I got you. So you're about to see every time I post something on Instagram, you're going to see the post. So a lot of people like that. I see the older people like coming up trying to rack their brain, like, how are we going to keep young people interested? I'm like, literally, I'm doing it from my bed. It's like literally just post something, get them to follow, and then like same with TikTok. I just started the thing a month ago. I got 30,000 followers, and one video is up to 3 million views. So it's just. What was the original? Sorry, I'm sorry to talk. What was your original question, Amy?
No, you answered it. You answered it great. And we're actually going to get Cortland. Don't go anywhere because we actually have your TikTok. We want to hear more about what you do there because Greg and I are absolutely fascinated because we're from a generation. So that probably you and Ashley are probably very much into TikTok. Maybe Emily touches on it. I don't know if Bernay's on TikTok or if she does much stuff, but like I'm fascinated. So we're going to come back to that.
I don't know, Amy, I'm a lot older than you are. To me, TikTok is the sound a clock makes, but and to just really quickly before we move to the next poll question, and I know Amy has a question for Ashley, but Cortland, you mentioned, talking about standing on the shoulders of who comes before. I've always thought if you use social media properly, you can really focus your message. If you take the Gettysburg Address or Martin Luther King's speech at the Lincoln Memorial and do it about, turn each line into tweets, or you can do it. You can take those two things and turn it into a series of tweets because the messages are there, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Everybody knows what was said on those 2 days.
Exactly.
Everybody knows, and each little portion fits into a tweet. So I really love that what you said about standing on other people's shoulders and pushing forward. I think we have time. I think it's poll question number 3. How soon are you willing to travel via commercial aircraft? And while people answer that, I'm going to turn it back over to Amy.
Yeah, I kind of almost want to let people have a second to answer this because I almost want the answer to come up. So, we can incorporate that into Ashley's, answer for the next question.
I'm not allowed to answer, but I have already traveled.
I have 2.
I have
trips planned through the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Bernay has, Emily has, of course, Ashley has, right? Being at Tampa. Cortland, have you traveled?
Oh yeah, I just landed. I'm in Denver right now. I ain't stopping.
See, okay. So let's go ahead and see those answers. Yay! That's awesome because this is Greg and I's 9th webinar, and our very first webinar was about aviation. It was about airports, airlines, and I always forget the third one. Airlines, airports,
manufacturers, right?
and we had an Oliver Wyman partner on there who said aviation wasn't going to come back till 2023, and we know that it's going to be slow to come back, but we need people to fly. It's safe, it's good, it's important for our economy, and you get to go places. So Ashley, at Tampa Airport, your team has used social media to promote air service development and enhance customer experience. I can tell Greg wrote this because having been the president of ACI North America, there's going to be I should have had him ask this.
Sorry, Ashley.
COVID has dramatically changed passenger numbers. Can you tell us about the adjustments you had to make? And I also think that you have a short video that you'd like to show. So why don't you go ahead and start talking and just let Amy know when you're ready to have that video shown.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, we were kind of on a high at the airport. We were reaching 21 million passengers in a year. We were winning awards. Everything was going great, right? And then COVID hit. So our passenger growth, or our numbers, were down 97%. So we went from seeing 60,000 passengers go through our airport a day to like 1,000 passengers a day, which was kind of heartbreaking for all of us. But on social media, my job was pretty easy before because it's like they're giving me the content that I need. Oh, we have a new airline route. Okay, easy. I'll share it. Oh, we have some new information. Cool. I'll share it. And it kind of got to a point where it's like, we're not really pushing people to fly right now. We're here if you need us. So it's kind of twofold. Social media really allowed us to continue to get our messages across and reach that audience that we still needed to reach, and keep those really key messages about what we were doing as an airport and our initiatives to make passengers feel safe. But we also had to create our own content. So whenever you're ready to play that video, you can. This is just an example of one of the videos that we created during that kind of rough period.
We're still here. At your service.
I'm still here.
At your service. We're still here.
At your service.
I'm still here.
We're here for you.
We're still here.
Here for you. At your service.
We're still here.
We're here for you.
Ashley, that is just incredible. I mean, it's so forward thinking, and really, we want, as the leader of a nonprofit, where it was important for me to remain engaged with my donors, supporters, members, and let them know that the National Aviation Hall of Fame, our mission was still forward. I was constantly coming up with ideas on how to connect with them without being able to connect with them. So you guys, and that you did multiple different videos like that, right? And what was the response like?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that our audience really understood that we're relating with them. I might not be at the airport anymore, but I'm on my couch or at my home office still trying to relate with them because I'm not traveling either. So that was really the key to kind of create content that made our audience feel like we were relatable and that we understood where we were coming from and where they were coming from, how they're feeling. So really just the key was to stay relevant and to be able to have that relationship with your audience.
Thank God for social media. It makes it so much easier. Wow.
Definitely.
Bernay, you were listening on our webinar we did on aviation and journalism last month, where we talked about how aviation needs to do a better job of explaining its story to journalists and thereby the public. What are the issues in our field that the use of social media could effectively explain and address?
Well, I mean, I was looking at Ashley's video, which was really well done. I really enjoyed that. And we faced a similar issue at the Point Sky. I mean, we write about travel and people weren't going anywhere. So we had to take a really big pivot from telling people where to go to telling them, no, we're not even traveling now, but we're looking ahead. So we were not only informing them of what was going on airlines and in airports and just in the travel industry in general, but we were also saying, but we are looking ahead. So when you're ready, here's some of the things you might want to consider. And then we bolstered that. We have a very active Facebook groups. We have 3, the Lounge, which is everyone, TPG Women, and TPG Small Business. And then we have Facebook page. We have a very active Twitter account, huge Instagram. We've been doing a lot of Instagram Live. And we hired a TikTok editor. So our TikTok videos do very, very well. So, we're still writing the stories, but we were really pushing forward with social media to let people know that we were still out there and we're still giving them the information that they need to make informed decisions, just in a different way.
Muted myself out of respect, and technology's hard. So, sharing big news in social media, especially for journalists, aviation journalists, is really hard. And Emily, we just know JPL, the coolest thing since the Wright brother, well, lots of things have happened since the Wright brothers that are really cool, but in particular, Emily, the helicopter Ingenuity is big news. Yep. How is social media an effective way of discussing and engaging complex space issues or opportunities, I guess?
Well, the thing is, I'll speak for, I was thinking sort of, when space flight, I'm saying human space flight, when human space flight started, it was the 1960s, you basically had newspapers and the 3 major networks in the United States. There was no internet, there was no cable, none of that. So really, the stream of, media was very controlled at the time. And, fast forward, it's, 60 years later, and, there's thousands of resources to go to. And one of the great things I think about social media and space hipsters specifically, my experience there has been usually when something happens with the volume of people in our group, there's somebody who was there, like who can say, yeah, I saw that. Or, I mean, even if it's something like Apollo 11, we have people who were there for Apollo 11 who were like, yeah, I was there. And and I was not there. I wish I was, but it was a little before my time. I wish I had been there. But we also have people, obviously, more of my generation and younger who are there for the SpaceX launches now, who are like, yeah, you know, and they'll share pictures, they'll share media from it. We've had people at some of the JPL events, you know, we have people who are Mars experts who post about, you know, Ingenuity and all the cool stuff that's happened this week with the powered helicopter flight on Mars, you know. So really, you know, one of the coolest things I think about social media is you don't have the and not dissing Walter Cronkite at all. We like Walter Cronkite, but you know, back in the 60s, you know, like I said, we had the 3 major networks and that was it. Nowadays you have thousands of experts, you know, and you have, you know, tons of people who either, you know, they work in the industry or, you know, they're experts about the industry or something, and they can converge in, you know, one place and sort of all share, you know, hey, I was here, or I know about this, or I have expertise in this. So it's very illuminating, and I think very beneficial.
Right on.
Yeah.
Greg, I'm going to pass it to you.
Yeah, we're going to put up poll question number 4. Amy, if you can put that up. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which percentage of those employed in the U.S. as aircraft pilots or flight engineers are Black or African American? And Cortland, while people answer that question, I had a couple of questions that I want to combine into one for you. You know, we obviously have a critical need in this industry to attract more talent, and we need to absolutely broaden the talent pool, which is the way I like to say it. Other people have other ways to saying it. You're really effectively using social media to get youth exposed to aviation, and also to I saw one tweet last week where you were educating people like me about the ways to talk to youth about it. And I took it as you were talking to people like me to get us to, you know, to do it right. And I thought it was perfect. You know, number one, we know that exposure isn't the only barrier. So if you could tell us what some of the other barriers to those folks coming into aviation are, and after that, if you could tell us a little bit more about, I think Amy said before we were going to ask you this, to talk how you're using some of the newer techniques like TikTok to reach your audience. So if you sort of combining a couple of questions, so if you could take the floor for a moment. Oh, by the way, the answers came up. The correct answer is 2.6. So a fair number of people got it right, and the people who got it wrong were at least in the right, unfortunate direction. Cortland, can I turn it over to you?
Oh, yes, definitely. I can talk a little bit more about that. So, you know, one of the biggest barriers is being introduced to it and this knowing it's possible. We don't even face that first barrier. We can't even look at the other ones. So I even seen someone commented something in here like, my enthusiasm, you must match enthusiasm with facts and technical, you know, social media is all about hype and all that stuff. So all that stuff. But then again, like, I'm using social media to introduce these young kids. Didn't even see a person that looks like them flying airplanes. So they at least know, hey, it's possible. And now they know have a website that they feel comfortable using because the founder looks like them. Now they go on the website and read the page, learn how to become a pilot. Oh, that's how I do it. Oh, I got on there AOPA Flight School Finder as well. I'll tell them location of a local flight school, go up an introductory flight. If you're in Charlotte, I'll take you for an introductory flight. A lot of these young people just wasn't introduced to it. They didn't even know it was possible. So, you know, I see this comment and, you know, the folks came before me were true experts. Okay. But, you know, what makes a person an expert anyway? And some of the people that came before me are now called experts, but during their time they were hated and beat and even executed. But you know, so it's just introducing. I don't see how people don't understand it. It's like literally you gotta see it to believe it. You can't be what you can't see. So I'm letting them see it. That's all I'm doing. Really, Fly for the Culture is literally a big marketing tool to market to young people across the world, not just in America, that people, minorities, women fly airplanes, and you can do it too. It's as simple as that.
Cortland, before you talk about TikTok, and Ashley, we're going to make you talk about TikTok too, because Greg and I are fascinated. But Cortland, I would really like you to talk a minute or two about the Fly for the Culture process. Like, when we talked to you the first time and you were saying about how you kind of touch these kids, kind of even get the idea in their head, and then tell them how they have to work for it, how you had to work for it. But then there's also, I forget what you called it, where you even teach them how to use a checkbook so that they can save, and so that they're working for it, they're earning it. I love that the whole fly for the culture. It's a cultural change. You're a trailblazer. It's hard, but you're doing it. So I want to make sure people know what you're doing, and maybe there's somebody watching, or somebody will watch it later and come to you for help or advice, or
Okay, definitely. I recently just resigned from my job as an airline pilot. My dream job, actually. I reached my dream job, became an airline pilot, but I realized my passion shifted trying to get younger people into aviation. I resigned because I created a company called Savage Aviation, where we do recruiting, social media, and also DEI training, diversity, equity, inclusion. And the reason why is because I want to inspire, hire, motivate, cultivate. I do the inspiring here with Fly for the Culture. Hey, you can be a pilot. Okay, well, one of the biggest questions is, well, what's the next step? How do I get there? Well, you got to work. I worked for it. You got to work for it too. So, and here's the best part. I have all these jobs available. I can even give you a job. I can hire you myself. And the young kids who I just inspired, now I'm telling them I can hire them and I can put them in positions, and you think they're not going, they rather work for Savage Aviation than some company that, they don't know about. So I'm inspiring, then I plan on hiring, then I'll take these young kids, keep them motivated through social media, and also use little things like webinars, whatever, where I can teach them financial literacy courses. Because one thing, we're introducing all these young people to aviation to possibly make $200,000 to $300,000, but we ain't never once taught the kids how to actually manage that much money. Because I can tell you, I did not know how to manage any of it. It's because I blew it all. It came out just as fast as it came in, because I didn't have any financial literacy. So that's one of the things I feel is needed, is you have to teach young people financial literacy, and teach them how to manage this type of money. So that's where the motivating, cultivating comes into play. So I'm just almost doing a pipeline. I'm gonna take a young person that didn't even know nothing about aviation and hire them at a job. Maybe it's not, throwing bags in the back of the plane. I'll wash pots at the hospital, and then teach them financial literacy where they know they can start working on building their credit. Because I just got them at 17, 18, right out of high school. We're going to start building your credit. Now they have a credit card. Now they're like, they can finance what they want to do now. If they want to be an A&P, if they want to be a pilot, this is how you solve the pilot shortage too. Is just you gotta get the young people excited about it, and then you gotta have follow through, because they're ready. When they're ready to go, they're ready to go, and if you don't keep their attention, you'll lose it just like that. So that's kind of what I'm doing there. And I can you ask me that second part of the question again too?
No, what we want you to do now is we want you to tell us how you keep them excited through TikTok, and then we want Ashley to tell us about it too.
I love TikTok. I just started on TikTok. I actually see, this is the other thing is, and I want the young people to hear, is pick up a trade. If they're watching, pick up a trade, pick up a skill. That's definitely something that's very important. So if you see someone that knows something that you don't know, ask them, hey, can I learn from you? Can you teach me? So that's what I did. That's how I learned about TikTok. I was on in the Bahamas with Daryl Freeman and Max Maxwell, and these are very successful Black entrepreneurs who are also pilots. And while they have their own personal camera guy, and I followed the camera guy around. I carried his bags. I got him to teach me everything he knew, and I didn't really know how to work TikTok. He taught me how to work TikTok. I had it for like a month. I probably posted like 5 or 6 videos, and one of them is now at 2.9. I'm waiting on that 3 to hit, but it's at 2.9 million views. And then also other videos are in the tens of thousands or whatever. And I even used it, working with my friend who's a Navy pilot, a fighter pilot. He creates TikToks, and we recently just put another one up of it's almost funny, just making fun of me, basically talking about carrier qualifications and that I missed the boat and bolted and went around. But it's a funny TikTok, but he just posted that this morning. It's at 15,000 views. So 15,000 kids we just reached in the time that I took a flight at a funny video. But then they're going to go, what is it like to fly those Navy aircraft?
Yeah.
And then they're going to look into it. You see how that works? So a lot of this is literally just inspired. These young kids are so smart. They're so talented. Like literally they run Fly for the Culture. That's my secret. I'm not really running Fly for the Culture. I get all my advice from the young people. They tell me what to post. They tell me what to share. They tell me what they like, what they want to see. And that's how I do it. So if you want to know how to work TikTok, literally you can go ask a young person or maybe your daughters or your son or your grandkids. They can literally teach you how to work TikTok. And then on top of that, you'll be cool to them. Like, because you took time, and it's funny as it sounds, but you took time out of your day to look into something that they enjoy, that they like. A lot of older people don't take time to really like see what these young people are into. Like, why do we like TikTok? Like right now, I can tell you right now, I got a video, 2.9 million views. And also the power of social media is marketing. I can go put comment a flight school under there and with like some video under the 2.9 million view video, and that flight school phone will ring off the hook.
So what you're saying is that you want to put the National Aviation Hall of Fame on your TikTok. Sorry, Greg, I interrupted you.
Yeah, so you know, Corlin is the oldest person on this webinar easily. You know, I can tell the other old people out there, your life is a never-ending battle to try to get your kids to think you're cool. And so Cortland Savage is just giving you some advice. Ashley, can you talk a little bit about TikTok? And then I want to ask Bernay to talk a little bit about Clubhouse, because there's been a lot of commentary in the chat about Clubhouse. And I know, Bernay, you're a big user of it. I've used it some. But Ashley, can you talk a little bit about how you use TikTok? And then Bernay, can you talk about Clubhouse?
So we actually don't use TikTok as a brand. So I'm sure Cortland has some more insight on that than me. I use it on my own, and I think that the benefits of it are really that you're able to reach this condensed, consolidated audience where you really pretty much know who your audience persona is. And on any other platform, that's really hard to find. I mean, I can go on Facebook and I can reach somebody who's in a really older demographic and somebody who lives across the country and they're 15 years old. So as a brand, we haven't used it mostly because we don't really have one person who represents our brand. But I can say that for brands who do have that one person representing them, it's a great tool.
Bernay, can you talk a little bit about Clubhouse? I want to turn it back over to Amy for some questions. You're muted, Bernay.
I started on Clubhouse in December. I have a lot of younger mentees that teach me a lot of stuff that I appreciate. And they're like, oh, you need to be on Clubhouse. And I'm like, well, I don't need another thing. And then I got on and I started listening to conversations and I was like, oh, I can do this. I can have a conversation. And just started jumping in. I mean, some people have clubhouses where they do regular things. The aviation community has really jumped in and embraced Clubhouse. I really enjoy some of the very thoughtful discussions that we have on there. I'm also a journalist, so I do a lot of journalism-based clubhouses. Tonight, every Thursday, I do one, and tonight it's so you want to be a travel journalist. So that's the topic for tonight. But I like it because people can come in and out. They're not recorded, so if you miss it, you miss it. And you can learn and meet a lot of really interesting people. I went to a clubhouse and I am now Clubhouse friends with Lucille Ball's granddaughter. I mean, because I was in that clubhouse and Lucy Arnaz actually came in as a surprise guest, which was just fabulous because you just never know who's going to show up on Clubhouse. So I do recommend it actually. You need invites to get in. And right now you can only use iPhones and iPads. So if you're Android, I'm really sorry, but it doesn't work that way. But people have invites. I have a ton of invites I'm happy to hand out. So
I have some too, if anybody's listening. I think Amy does as well, so they can ask us to do that. And Isaac Alexander was nice enough to invite me, I know. Amy, I think you've got the next round of questions.
I do, and I just for a selfless plug, I do as part of the FAA Women in Aviation Advisory Board. I'm on a clubhouse Thursday nights at 9 o'clock, all about women in air and space, and we do a lot of positive chit chat about culture change and that kind of thing, and yeah, it's exciting.
For you men out there, jump in on that because it's a good conversation and it's for us too.
Yeah, boys are allowed. Boys are encouraged. Boys are our allies. So we want all the support. We want, yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to ask Amy to put up poll question number 5 while I ask Emily a question. And then we only have maybe 7 minutes left, Greg. After Emily, I would definitely recommend, I love the lightning round that you propose adding to our webinars. So I propose after Emily, we do the lightning round with our panelists. But so the poll question number 5 is up. What social media platform is on its way out? And I'm sorry if I missed one whenever I was listing them here. This is just what I was interested in. But Emily, space has always been seen as something that is about the future. Aside from space tourists sending back weightless selfies, what do you see as the future of social media for space enthusiasts and practitioners? Greg, don't put big words in my questions. I'll just leave it at space enthusiasts. No big words. I don't even know what that is. So
I think, well, I touched on sort of how in the 60s, you only the news sources were somewhat limited. And I really loved what Cortland discussed, where, you can't be something if you don't see it. And when I was a little girl, there were very few women space reporters. I think there was Lynn Scher, I think was one of them. And that's all I remember from the 80s. So you didn't see that really. And there were a few women astronauts, but I mean, it wasn't, there weren't a lot of them back then. So I love the thing I love, and I think the future of social media and space is you're seeing a lot more players in there. I think that's a good thing. You're seeing a lot of people, start their own blogs. You're seeing a diverse pool of different people. I love what Cortland said, you can't be something if you don't see it. Well, if you see, a woman doing, space history, I'm sort of advertising myself. Wow. You could say, well, wow, maybe I could do something like that. I haven't seen that yet or something, or, if you see, I think for Perseverance, one of the controllers for it is a immigrant who came over to the States, and she had like $300 when she came over, and now she's running Perseverance, and I mean, I love we need to see stuff like that, so people can see it and say, okay, I may come from this background, where, I might feel like the other, but that doesn't have to be that way. I can assimilate and I can fit into this community as well as anybody can. So I think we need to see more messages like that on social media. I also think we need to there's more players now. Like I said, we don't just have the 3 networks with the talking heads wearing suits anymore. We have all sorts of different players out there, all sorts of different people, kind of starting their own, their own gigs and, sharing content, whether it's, hey, I went to Kennedy Space Center and I saw, the SpaceX rocket go up, or, hey, I was, I work at JPL and, here's what we did or something like that. I mean, just from all over the place. And it doesn't have to be the United States. It could be what Europe is doing or what, any place is doing. So I think that's the way of the future for social media where space flight is concerned.
And apparently Tumblr is on its way out. And I don't even know.
Whatever that even is.
Yeah, whatever that is. Greg, we're so old. Cortland, your phone is going to light up because I don't know if you're following the chat, but everybody and their brother wants to get in touch with you. And Bernay, Clubhouse, watch out. Bernay, don't you wish that we had the Clubhouse thing where we can click really fast? Like Emily was talking about the females at JPL, and Bernay and I are going like this. And if you're on Clubhouse, there's a thing you can do and everybody can see you clapping virtually. I love that. Greg, I'm sorry, I'm going to turn it over to you for this ingenious lightning round that you've come up with.
So Yeah, and Cortland was nice enough to provide his email address to everybody. And the reason I'm not going on chat to put mine on there, I'm happy to give, have I frozen?
No,
Hello?
you're fine. Craig did freeze.
Now he's frozen.
Darn it. Okay. So I'm going to try to do this. This was his idea. These are supposed to be one-word answers. So I'll go in the order of, let's see, Bernay, then Court. Oh, wait, I'm going to go in alphabetical order.
I'm back now, but
You're
Amy,
back.
you continue. I'm back.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead,
can-
Greg. Your
You continue.
brainchild.
Go ahead. You continue.
Okay, so I'm going to go Ashley, Bernay, Cortland, Emily. One-word answers. Ashley, in 10 years, which widely used social media app is most likely to be considered old school?
I'm gonna go with Snapchat.
Bernay?
The same question?
Yep.
Twitter.
Oh, Cortland. Are you on mute, Cortland?
Looks like it.
Oh.
Oh, good, because I ain't know what to say. I'm gonna go with Twitter as well.
Emily.
Emily, you're on
I'm
mute.
sorry, Twitter.
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 Wow.
I am so sorry.
No, that's fine. Everybody leave yourselves not mute because it's supposed to go fast. Okay, so which one will grow even more in importance? Which social media platform will grow even more in the next 10 years? Ashley.
Instagram.
Bernay.
TikTok.
Ooh, Cortland.
YouTube.
Emily.
Facebook.
Other than yourself, who's doing a great job using social media in aviation right now? Ashley.
YVR.
Bernay.
Cortland.
Cortland.
I was gonna say Bernay.
I was gonna say, you better say the points guy. Emily.
I'll say Cortland.
Wow. All
Oh,
right.
thank you.
Yay. COVID
Hey,
has
hey,
been
Amy, Ashley said YVR, just so everybody knows that's the Vancouver airport.
Oh, yeah. Cool. COVID has been a blank for aviation. So, why does it have a question mark, Greg? COVID has been a blank for aviation social media. Ashley?
Sorry.
I'll say a booster.
Oh, Bernay.
I was going to say a boon.
Yeah.
Portland.
I'm gonna say a blessing, but that don't sound good with COVID. So good. It's been good for it.
Good. Well, no, it's good it's right. We should have some good. Emily.
Similar answers all the way around.
I was gonna say blessing, even though that sounds kind of wrong too. So
No, it's good. Which
benefit.
one? Oh, sorry, Emily.
Maybe a benefit in a way.
Benefit. Okay. Which one use application would you most like to see in the social media universe? Ashley.
You mean like an app or?
Which? Greg, what are you talking about here?
Yes, something like in social media. If there's something you can get social media to do that it's not doing now, what would it be? So like, what superpower would you like? Social media superpower. Teleporting's not an acceptable answer.
I guess I'd like to see more philanthropy.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Good. Bernay?
The power to verify whoever I wanted.
Yes. Yes. Cortland.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the question.
I know, me too. And
Cortland, which social media superpower would you like to have? Something you can't do now, but you like. Because social media, you can press a button.
Oh, I would like Instagram algorithm to stop like not letting everyone see my post. There's an algorithm.
yes. Emily, what social media superpower would you like?
Would like to send more kids to space camp and to college.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And just for clarification, I typically don't let Greg write all the questions because he uses big words and complicated language, but I ran out of time. But thanks very much, Greg, for this lightning round idea. I think it's awesome. And everyone, that's all the time we have for today. We'd like to thank everyone for attending. On behalf of Greg and myself, the National Aviation Hall of Fame and the National Aeronautic Association, thank you all for attending, and we hope you can join us on our next webinar.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. This was awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.